Welcome to another live session of the Menopause Method.
I'm Dr. David Rosensweet.
And I'm Joshua Rosensweet. And today we're going to talk about a topic that I think most people don't understand. I sure didn't, and that's this, that a woman goes into menopause, the symptoms get really, really rough, she gets on hormones to get her through that rough spot, and a couple years later, really as soon as possible, she stops. She gets herself back off those hormones because that's the right thing to do.
Yeah. Is it the right thing to do? No. And that particular practice is universally popular in the United States, and probably around the world, and yet it was triggered by some research that turned out to have a lot of faults in it. And then let's look at it from another angle, because my answer is no. As a woman or man, major hormones decline, they're going to continue declining. They're not only under very rare circumstances are they going to recover. You're past your 30s, those hormones decline, and they keep on declining. And by the time someone's in their 90s, how do I know this? I've seen the test results over and over again.
Yeah.
They got very close to zero hormones, and these things are so powerful.
Even much lower than they were when a woman was right in the peak of menopause.
Exactly. So the questioner was saying, she went into menopause, let's say 50 or 45. They were still some substantial hormones, not enough to menstruate, but there were still some hormones there. Yeah, by the time she's 90, and why do you see the elderly women and elderly men with canes, walkers, wheelchairs, and what you often don't see, but they have them, is Depends, those adult diapers. And by the time that starts to happening, they get separated from their family. This is the biggest blow to them of all. They move out of the home, out of the family dynamics, and into the assisted living facilities or nursing homes.
It's sort of hard to feel that far into our futures.
Not for me, because I'm a doctor and I've seen people of all ages, and I'm treating people of all ages, and after a while you get it. You know that famous cartoon where someone's standing upright and then they get 10 years older and they're starting to, and then they get 10 and they got the cane as you go through the decades. Well, as a physician, always being in general medicine, I've seen this, and I really hear, listen to, and work with the problems of the ultra elderly. And you think you got issues, you want to talk to those folks. But the main thing I want to say again is the biologic thing that actually is occurring for most humans, more or less, is these hormones start declining in your mid-20s. You don't notice it until your 30s or 40s. And they continue to decline, and that's not good. And you could say, well, that's natural. And I can say, only to a certain extent. And the thing is, so much of that decline is due to overworking of the biology of the stress response. You get stress, you pour out adrenaline. Most people know that. You pour out cortisol. Most people know that. What they don't realize is they start pouring out estrogen, testosterone, DHEA, thyroid. And you keep doing that day after day because you're in perpetual or repetitive fight or flight, and you start, the glands can't keep up with it, and you get hormonal decline. In medicine, you won't be able to find a doctor that once that doctor identifies too low thyroid hormone, that they're going to say, well, we only want to treat you for 3 years or 5 years, but we sure want to stop. No.
You only need your thyroid a couple more years, right?
You go into an assisted living facility, a nursing home, and people were put on thyroid in their 40s and 50s. They're still getting prescribed thyroid for the whole rest of their lives. And the same is true as ovarian hormones. But a big, wild scare came into the American medical profession and all the women in America, and thus all over the world. There was a study done, we've reviewed it many times, and the cat got out of the bag that they were declaring that there was a risk for breast cancer. And it scared the American public and the American medical profession so greatly that they changed their ways, because they used to give Premarin by mouth for women when they went into menopause. It was one of the most popular pharmaceuticals on the planet Earth until the 2002 study that showed what? That women shouldn't use Premarin, horse urine-derived estrogens, No. Women who were treated with horse urine-derived estrogens had less of an incidence of breast cancer than women who were untreated. But that got lost.
And
that
you can
got buried.
see how it can get lost, because what is scarier than cancer?
Yeah.
And what is
But the
scarier
incidence
of
was
the cancers than breast cancer?
Exactly.
It's so personal on so
But
many
what
levels.
got lost is there was two arms of that study.
Yeah.
One of the arms of the study, women were given Premarin alone. That's horse urine-derived estrogens.
Yeah.
I can slow that down, but we've said a lot about this. And the other arm of the study was the combination of Premarin with this funky molecule, this mega-altered molecule that's no longer a progesterone, it's a progestin called medroxyprogesterone acetate. And it was this arm of the study that had a small but statistically significant increase in breast cancer and coronary artery disease. So they stopped the whole study, and years later they started seeing the faults in the study, and study after study came out and said, well, look at the mistake we made here and look at the mistake we made
It's
here.
only the progestin. We're not putting women on progestin anymore. They shouldn't be
Well, you know what?
afraid
There's
of it.
still women being treated with Provera.
Interesting.
I know. It's staggering to me that it hasn't been ripped out of the market, because that was the problem thing.
Yeah.
It was called Prempro. Women are still treated with Premarin because, you know, they have less of an incidence of breast cancer than women who are untreated. But that scare got out so fast they couldn't get the cat back in the bag, and there's been many, many studies that have shown the many faults of that study.
This woman was actually raising the thing because she lost the ability to sleep again, right?
Yeah.
And I'm only bringing it up because she kind of lucked into, that's a funny way of putting it, but the symptoms got so severe she was willing to reopen up a door against the advice of the experts in her
Yes.
life and say, there's got to be some way to help me.
And there's several aspects of that.
Yeah.
Number one, the knowledge base around treating women in menopause with hormones has gotten so huge that, like, for example, if someone had an acute appendicitis, they could come to me. I could pull off an appendectomy. But I'd be the last doctor in the world. You want to go to a doctor that has had specific surgical residency and has done 100 of them, if not 1,000 of them.
And 3 that week.
Exactly. They're the ones you want to see.
Yeah.
And menopause was never considered much of a specialty. In fact, the visits took 10 minutes. Oh, I'm having hot flashes. Here's the Premarin. That takes 10 minutes. We don't have to test you because we can't test you. And what my point is this, that you really want to be seeing someone who has taken the time to do the extra education and to work with menopausal women all the time. And what do they know? They know, number one, to treat women with hormones puts them at less of a risk than to not treat them at all. Oh, that's huge. To treat them with bioidentical hormones properly puts them at less of a risk. This is medical studies. I'm not just thinking this out loud. Than women who go untreated for a lot of different things.
Yeah.
For brain, for Alzheimer's prevention, for artery stuff, for bladder, for vagina, for bones. This is a big deal. Our body loves these hormones.
We've done a lot of these now. We've sat in these chairs a lot of times, and I feel some repeating themes.
Yeah.
And I, on one hand, we don't want to be repetitive and boring, but I got to say that you and I started in on this project together more than 10 years ago. And even as your son, and even with the degree of trust I have always had for you as a medical doctor, the rubber hit the road for me when I thought of my wife getting on hormones.
Yeah.
And those fears had worked their way into my psyche. Me, your son. So they're
worth
deep.
examining.
Yeah. And
You're playing with powerful chemicals. You're playing with powerful natural hormones. These things are powerful.
Yeah.
So you want to get it right, and it's not that hard to get it right if you take the time and energy and education and get the experience and get the mentoring like you would at. I mean, the only way I would get great at an appendectomy, which would be fun, is I would do a lot of studying, and I'd get in a surgical residency, and I would go through that operation with mentors time after time after time, and then someday the mentor would say to me, the chief surgeon would say, okay, I want you to do the next one. I'll be standing by your side to make sure you do it right.
Yeah.
And they would not let that happen until that surgeon felt safe enough to let me at it, and then they'd be right there to grab my hand if they didn't say something out loud. And the same thing is true in menopause, is to get this one right. And I want to say it again. I recommend that a woman and a man, when their hormones start declining, that they start to take hormones and just get it right. And we go way out of our way, as you know so well, to define what's getting it right, including the testing. And the other thing is, excuse me, having a drop there.
Well, I've sure got one.
Yeah.
You mentioned that model.
And to take them for the rest of their life. And of course, we've also, I've told you the story, and we have videos of me treating women in their late 80s and late 90s, couldn't get out of a chair, fell, fractured a shoulder because their muscles got so weak they weren't stable on their feet. And then we have an after video of the woman getting up from a soft couch with her hands, my mother-in-law, getting up out of a soft couch with her hands up in the air with this huge smile on her face, showing that she could get out of a low couch without using her hands, which she could never do before that. I mean, there's a lot of reasons to take these hormones.
Yeah.
And boy, you get it right, and we'll change the nature of these family breakups that are taking place and these elderly people who have become so dependent that they got to have skilled nursing care. I have nothing against the skilled nursing care. Bless their hearts. It's some of the most devoted, hard work that's taking place on this planet. And I love those people, and I've had a lot of, I've loved those workers. But, you know, let's get them into another branch of medicine called prevention. It'd be easier on them. And give the older folks what they really want is they want to stay part of life.
Here's the part I wanted to add.
Hormones are that powerful. Hormones are that crucial to that. Sorry.
No problem. The part I wanted to add is what you just laid out for how you would become good at doing an appendectomy is really the basic model for how we built this company.
Yeah.
I don't know if viewers know this, but we started as our core mission to train doctors. To give a little history here, why we became involved in Partners is Dr. Rosensweet, Dad, had been on the lecture circuit teaching doctors how to treat women in menopause.
And nurse practitioners.
And nurse practitioners at large conferences. And I went, this is great stuff. Let's build this business. And what is the basics of it? First of all, lots and lots of education. That's what it takes. You got to study a lot. And then, my point is this, that whole mentoring thing that he said that would happen if he tried to become an appendectomy master, that's what we do with our doctors.
We mentor them case after case
after
case.
They get to run their cases, their tough cases, by Dr. Rosensweet, Dad, personally, I mean, it's a lot of time. It's a huge commitment. Often I'll hear doctors go, really, you're so generous with your time. Why we do it? Yeah, important. There's no substitute for a great mentor when you're
in education.
Yeah.
And back to the basic premise is this woman stopped her hormones because she had gotten part of the public fear. And which part of the medical profession still has the public fear? The ones that were touched by the explosive knowledge.
Yeah.
And who isn't? The ones who have gone on to really, oh, look at that. Look what this study showed. Look what this study showed. Oh, my God, it was a mistake. Oh, my God, the fear was on. And not only that, we threw out the baby with the bathwater. Now, I'm not here to imply that none of us are at risk for small, medium, or large issues. I mean, I'm grateful that I'm walking and talking this afternoon because who knows about tomorrow. We're all at risk, but hormones, properly administered in the right doses, don't cause cancer. Now, in our book and in our teaching seminars, we show how hormones can play a role in these well-differentiated cancers, but they don't cause it. And if you're involved with someone who's an expert in this field, or as part of a program that they're getting expert in it, they're going to monitor you like wild and anything that goes untoward, because 10 to 15 years before women go into menopause is when those cancers start. It takes 10 to 15 years for those breast cancers, for example, to grow from a single cell. So the hormones didn't cause it. But if you're under careful care, you're getting an annual exam, and you'll get it detected. Yeah. And so I just want to say, I didn't want to imply that there is no risk, but properly treated with hormones, the risk isn't the hormones. The risks are all the things that amount to creating an aberrant cell, a genetic change that leads to a cancer, and we are at risk for those things. So we want to be cautious with a lot of things.
Yeah.
But sorry to go on so long there, but take them all your life. That's my best shot. And if anyone would like to challenge me on that, please challenge me on it.
Great. Lots of questions, probably more than we can get to. Just a shout out to Gina. I see that you've joined us, which is great. The first question comes from the town we're in. This is Sarasota, Florida, where we are filming right this very second. It comes from a woman named Susan, and she said, "Hi, I'm looking for someone who can help me with menopause symptoms. I've been living with symptoms for almost 10 years, and they are starting to get more intense again. I've been of the mindset that it's a natural progression of aging." Feeds nicely into what we opened with. "But I think I've reached my limit. I went to a local natural doctor 2 years ago. After 3 visits and almost $2,500, he couldn't remember why I went to see him in the first place!" Exclamation point. "Earlier this year, I went to a local pharmacy and did a hormone saliva test. I haven't taken it any further than that because I really don't know who to trust or what to do. Do you think you can help? Thanks, Sue."
Yes, Sue. One thing that I did very, very early on, 2002, I published the first book on menopause and bioidentical hormones, and I wrote it for women.
Yeah.
This book is written for women. It's on that major distributor in the sky that you all know about, but I'd rather not mention the name, called Happy Healthy Hormones. This book is written for women. And there's several things that I address in there, including the big scare that's happened and what the actual facts are around that, and the references, if you want to go reference it in the publicly available online medical literature.
That's an important point, just to stop you for a second. There's so many theories espoused by all sorts of people. And the ones that I respect the most are the ones who have delved into the basic literature at the core of the issue and are basing any words coming out of their mouth on as sound a science as can exist.
Exactly.
These are soft sciences, but there's a lot of research. And what do I know of you?
A ton of it.
You like to read it.
I do. And yes, we've got a lot of references, 80 in the book. I called out the most pristine ones.
Yeah.
And I've got a 700 reference database that relates only to menopause.
Yeah.
And so that's the first thing, because a lot of women have been scared by this faulty study, scared by the rumors, and so they think, well, I'm going to avoid it. And then what happens? They keep avoiding it, and so many women...
There's another one. I'm sort of interrupting you today. I'm sorry, but that I've heard this one. It was brought up by a word she put in there, natural. Why would I treat menopause? Menopause is natural. They sort of feel that it's going against nature to do something like this.
Well, there's a lot of nature happening on the planet Earth and with human beings, and there's a lot of not natural happening.
Yeah.
And we don't know what life would be like if the human race ever grows so much in wisdom and in good practices and good living and love and happiness and spirituality, that they don't stress and injure our body. And there's nothing natural about those injuries. There's nothing natural about injuring the body through exposure to toxic chemicals, or through exposure to not enough movement and exercise, or to the craziness that's happened to the food supply. And the elephant in everybody's room is there's nothing natural about having a dysfunctional response to stresses in our life.
We surely wouldn't say it about many other things. Oh, it's natural that my bones are becoming more porous. We'd
Well,
go,
they're becoming porous for a reason.
yeah, we'd go, what can I do to not have my bones get porous?
That's right, exactly.
Yeah.
And just because you brought that subject up, you could have chosen many other topics. Hormones, ovarian hormones for women, relate strongly to osteoporosis, the loss of bone density. Oh my God, the literature is loaded with it. It's been known since I've been in medical school.
Not enough hormones, bones get weak and porous.
That's right, and they fracture.
Yeah.
And muscles. I had a lecture from a gerontologist when I was a senior in medical school, and he told us, you want to know what's really happening to older people more than all these technical diagnoses and pathology you know so much about as a senior medical student? they're losing their muscles and they're losing their, and then they don't walk stably or stand stably, so they fall too easily on osteoporotic bones and they fracture themselves, and that's usually the final event. And he's saying, you want to do something good for older people? Figure out this muscle thing and this bone thing, because that's what's happening to them. And both of these things relate so significantly, more than anything else, to the hormonal loss. What I was trying to point out, there's nothing natural about these declines. And may the day come in our lifetime where you get so skilled at the stresses of life that you don't deplete your crucial biochemicals called your hormones and neurotransmitters, and you don't drive your mitochondria crazy so they can't produce enough energy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So human life has got some naturalness to it, but it's got a lot of non-naturalness to it. Well, you know, I'm trying to approach it from a facetious angle, really. I can tell you what's happening medically, because one of the things that helped me so much in all that I know about hormones is I got exposed early on to the gold standard for assessing hormones in research since the 1940s. It was the 24-hour urine hormone test. And I can tell you what's happening. Young women start to get these robust levels of hormones, and they peak probably in their early 20s or late teens, and then they decline over time, and men do a very similar thing. All of them decline. And then I can tell you this for certain, and I've seen it in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tests, and you ask anybody who's an expert in testing, some of these PhDs that do this for a living, they test ovarian hormones. And they're going to tell you, yeah, that's exactly it. When we give the reference range, we give it for different age brackets because they're different, and the older you get, the lower these hormones are. And then the other thing that's happened is as these hormones lower, things go awry. You can have a vitamin B deficiency, and that is not good for you. And yet it's going to be a slow thing, and it's not going to be terribly apparent until it really gets weird. But you get a hormonal deficiency or a neurotransmitter deficiency, and that stuff is so powerful that you notice that. My point is this. These hormones decline, and that's for sure. And when they decline, I can tell you, not as a guesswork, that it's the bones, the arteries, the brain, the memory, the cognition, the energy, the hair, the skin, the muscles, the vagina, the bladder. Why do people, again, walk with canes, walkers, and wheelchairs, lose their ability to stay at home and wear these adult diapers because they can't control their urine? This is primarily about hormones. So those are the medical facts. And are there a few elderly? A few. Oh my God. There might be a few. We live in Florida. You go to the beach in Florida and you see older people, and their lower extremities are so thin. They have sarcopenia. They have lost muscle. This is not a new discovery or a new thing that's taking place. So them's are the facts.
We've covered some great stuff. I feel like a couple points you brought in that are maybe getting missed. First of all, the most basic one, do you think you can help? What can I do? Yeah. And as a little aside, saliva test is what she did.
Thank you. Yes. Oh my God. One of the reasons I gravitated to doing this wasn't on purpose. My patients sort of took me here. But the thing that you give women proper hormones and they get dramatic results. They don't turn into their 20s. It's never one of my objectives. I have nothing to do with trying to restore a period. It's bad medicine to restore a period or sustain a period. We're not trying to recreate a 20-year-old thing in any way, shape, or form. But I can tell you, you interview a woman who's been properly treated with bioidentical hormones, and you're going to see the love pouring out of their eyes because it turned their life around.
Yeah.
And the sleep issues, the libido issues, the energy issues, they go on and on. So the answer is, it's a beautiful field because you can achieve so much. And I'm sorry about salivary hormones. I'm going to give you my best shot. Nope, 24-hour urine hormone test is the only thing to date, and I mean it. I give you my best shot. People can argue with me. Hey, listen, come on.
Or ask specifically why, right? Let's debate this one. If someone really loves the science and wants to get on and say why they think salivary
and I was attracted to salivary hormones when I first started practicing.
Yeah.
And the problem was they didn't line up with what was going on in the patient and the results I was getting. And I asked a few of my learned colleagues, there weren't a lot of them back then.
Yeah.
Because you and I started 10 years ago, but on menopause, I started going 25 years ago.
What you mean is, okay, here's some results coming in from this test. Here's the other test you've done, which you know is the gold standard.
Yeah.
Here's what the woman is reporting. This and this are lining up.
They do.
And this one is an outlier. It doesn't match.
Doesn't
so
reflect
thus
it.
something in this mix is not working, and the answer is obvious. It can't
Choose the
be.
one that it can't be. And when you explore how the saliva test is gathered and how it's done, I mean, saliva is not a natural conduit for hormones. It happens to show up there, just it'll show up in your tears.
Yeah.
But this is a bigger story. I just want to give you my best shot, and if you want to go deeper into this, someone that can ask a more technical question about it.
Yeah.
But you want to, and this is actually something I would use for, I suggest to women who are seeking out someone who knows what they're doing here. Because for one thing, these hormones, you have to have a prescriber. These are state controlled, and properly so. They're so powerful, they need to be controlled.
Yeah.
You can't just walk into your pharmacy and say, give me some estrogen, over the counter. That should never happen.
Right.
They're too powerful, and you want someone very learned and knowledgeable, and so that they have to be a medical professional, a physician or nurse practitioner, basically, or a physician's assistant that works for a physician, and they've got to write the prescription, and so that's one thing you want. And then, oh my goodness, I was going somewhere else with this as well.
I'll take it one obvious place.
Yes.
She may already know this, but what we do is train doctors, and so if you say, do you think you can help, the answer is yes, we do. Most likely, because we train doctors all over the place. And so if you go to our website, menopausemethod.com, and you find a doc and type in your information, we'll line you up with docs trained in our method in your state. So that's the basic way we help.
And then, in general, you need to go to a professional who has, number one, has the right to write a prescription. And that's going to be a naturopathic physician in many states and not all states, a medical doctor, an osteopathic doctor, or a nurse practitioner. They're the ones who are licensed to write prescriptions for hormones, and you got to have one of those folks.
Yeah.
Second thing you want is you hope that they've taken a special interest in menopause and bioidentical hormones. And here's one way you can find out. You could say, how do you test me once I'm on the hormones? And you want to hear from that office staff that we do that 24-hour urine hormone test. And if you don't hear that, say, well, we monitor by blood tests or salivary tests. With all due respect, I'm going to challenge people and say, you want to turn away from that phone call and keep hunting. But like you said, if you go to Find a Doc on our website, we have a team member, that's one of the main things that she does, is connect people up with doctors we've trained.
Great. Probably time for at least one more question. We've got Mary from Washington. I can read about half the question here. It says, there we go, I am 54 years old and would love to find holistic and natural ways to regulate my hormones. I have sleep issues and can't lose weight that I've gained since entering menopause, despite eating well and exercising. I hope to find someone in my area. I'm a health coach, and I learned about Dr. Rosensweet via Carmen Hunter.
Ah, yes. Hi, Carmen, and hi, health coaches.
Plug for them. What an amazing service well-trained health coaches offer.
And we had a really fun seminar that we did with them. And these are highly interested and skilled people that can help people get healthier.
Yeah.
They're not trying to supplant physicians and nurse practitioners. They're trying to be part of the team, and they're a very important and a rising part of the team of getting people better.
If people haven't heard of them yet, they probably
will.
will.
Look up health coaches. It's going to rise. 10 years, this is going to be a popular, very popular. And now, your question. There are many natural approaches to keeping alive, to maximizing your health and vitality. And those approaches we outlined earlier today, we talk about them all the time. They relate to the very thing that health coaches are excellent at helping people with, their nutrition, their exercise, detoxification if it's important, and skills to improve how they relate to stress so they don't trigger the biology of the fight or flight thing. And that's how you're going to stay healthy and vital, and you're going to maximize it by getting excellent in those 4 categories, period. What can you do beyond that? If you get ill, you can access medicines and healing techniques to help you turn the corner. There you start getting into the world of herbs and supplements, but those are medicines we're talking about. The body has to react to those. They're molecules different than what are in your body, even if it's something like echinacea. This is a beautiful plant that people have been using for a long time, and it does good things, but it's still a medicine. It's no different. Well, it is different, but it's a molecule that does not exist in your body. Echinacea does not exist in your body, so your body reacts to it. And maybe it triggers the immune system and puts the immune system on red alert. Good on you. That's a good thing to have happen, especially when you want to awaken that immune system if you're dealing with infections.
Yeah.
But you don't want to stay on medicines long term. That is not a good thing to do. You want to use them for what they're designed for, and what they've been given to human beings for is short term, affect the body, impact the body, make the body react, come off of them.
That's just to pause and say that one again. Anything that isn't naturally part of the human body is medicine, and all medicines should be used in moderation for short periods of time.
Exactly.
That's quite a statement.
If it's not food,
yeah,
your body's going to have to react to it.
yeah,
And we capitalize on those reactions, and they can be put to great use, but you don't want to keep taking something that's forcing your body into reaction.
right.
And that's the essence of most, and not all medicines, but most of them.
Wow.
And then, so when a woman ceases to menstruate and starts getting hot flashes in the middle of the night, she's not having an herb deficiency. We do know what she's having a deficiency of, and we do know what's replenishing it, and we do have the most gorgeous natural thing that we can possibly administer, a molecule that is identical to a molecule that's in her body, that her ovaries used to produce. And so my approach is, take it as far as you can in sustaining and building and recovering a vital life with all the basics. There's no replacement for that. And add what the issue is. And the issue is you've gotten depleted in bioidentical hormones. You did not get depleted in black cohosh. You did not get completed in all kinds of things that are administered for menopause. So, you know, I represent a certain approach to all this.
I want to add one more.
Yeah.
What I hear in this is the theme running through this day, which is how naturally can we do this, right? She's mentioned the things that she cares a lot about, holistic and natural ways. She is a health coach. And your roots are deeply holistic.
From
and
out of the gate.
And
Senior medical student.
And one of the things about hormones, but what did we say early on? Take them forever.
Yeah.
What's the truth of, well, I don't know the number, 98, 99% of hormones out there is that they all come in a base, but most of them come in a base which is full of solvents like propylene glycol.
You're bringing up another issue is, yeah, bioidentical hormones, I wouldn't do anything but you're bringing up a glitch that's out there in the most common compounded bioidentical hormones, and women should be concerned about, because 99.3% of what's in a jar of these hormones that are these compounded bioidentical hormones is actually what they're in solution, what they're brought into solution with, which are strong solvents that have toxic potentials. So yes, we went on to develop something that is in a certified organic oils mix, and we have our compound, all the pharmacists that do our method, and bless their heart, we sure are grateful to them. They add hormones to the organic oils mix, and you have to shake the bottle because it's not a solution.
That's
there are no solvents in it.
You've got to shake that sucker.
You got to shake that sucker a couple times, blink. You know, it doesn't take, no, it goes da-da-da-da-da, put it on your arm. And so one of the things you may object to, and you may be sensing without knowing this particular detail, is we think it's very important what a woman rubs on her skin. And because transdermal is the way for most of these hormones most of the time, not all of them, but certainly estrogen and testosterone. And I did the math once prior to switching to the organic oils, and a woman's applying more or less a quart of this stuff on her skin, which is going to get absorbed into her skin and into her body a year. And we were thinking, take it for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, do the math on that, a quart in itself. And anyone, especially health coaches, they're going to know that they've got to get their people to avoid toxins.
It's a strange way to relate to it, but like you said with echinacea, you put something in your body, even something great like echinacea, your body has to react to it and don't stay on it forever. Well, how's propylene glycol?
That's in a different category. That number one is not a medication.
Yeah.
And it is toxic.
Yeah.
That's not echinacea.
Right.
You could take too much echinacea and get toxic. It's a foreign molecule, but some molecules like orange peels are less toxic than propylene glycol, for example. You could eat a lot of orange peels and you'd eventually get toxic because they're not real food.
Yeah.
But propylene glycol is a solvent, and there's medical studies describing what some of the adverse effects of that. And then, well, we're all exposed to poisons and we're all exposed to toxics, and we got way too much of them. But some people, in a significant percentage of the population of this world, is oversensitive to these solvents. We all should be oversensitive to them, and they can't tolerate them, and they get sick pretty quick on them. So this is not a day and age that we want to be adding to the toxic load. So we're helping with menopause with hormones, but 99.3% of what they're actually rubbing on their skin has toxic potential. No, well, that's part of what the menopause method is, and we're trying to make it universal, is we put it in organic oils. Lovely oils that have been studied scientifically, that don't go rancid. Shake the bottle a couple times, doesn't take much. Put a few drops on your skin. A little dab will do you.
Great. Well, we went through that one pretty quick, so we have time for one more.
Sure.
All right, great. We have Susan, well, it must be the same person, from Sarasota, and she says, "Hi, Dr. Rosensweet. I reached out to you a couple of years ago for help with menopause symptoms. You called me back to set up a consultation, but I got cold feet and didn't follow through. I've told myself that it's just a natural phase of life," boy, is this a theme,
yeah,
"that I should be able to endure. I don't have much patience left to stick with that mindset. I feel like I'm at my wit's end. I don't go along with the current state of our medical and insurance systems. For me, it's a pretty big deal to reach out to you again. I have to admit that I'm scared of putting substances in my body, but I can't see continuing to live this way. I assume you deal with situations like mine all of the time. Regards, Susan."
All of the time. Because in the history of treating women in menopause, a lot of fundamental errors were made. And then the big scare came along, and then for the reasons we mentioned today, that even the delivery systems of hormones, if they're not done properly, if people don't know to not give oral estrogen, and to not just give estradiol, to give estriol and a ton of other things that we talk about, it's, you do the best you can, but why not go all the way? And so here's what because Susan, I've met so many women like yourself. They got scared, and they're basically committed to natural life anyway, and they're concerned about the modern world, that we've gone way overboard, so that amplifies that concern. And as a young doctor, I had this up the yin-yang, whatever that is.
And there are medical excesses all over the place.
And I went through this amazing medical school that I just loved. It was like going to the ultimate in a temple for me. And
University of Michigan.
University of Michigan, and I got out of there, graduated, and I was afraid of every medication because I read the possible side effects. You watch a television ad, take this medicine, it's so good for you, it's going to alleviate your depression. And don't take it if you're going to drop dead from it, if you're going to get a severe allergic reaction, your head may explode and your legs may fall off. But don't worry about it, because it only happens to about 10% of the people, whatever they say in those ads. It's just astounding. But you really get sidetracked there. I got afraid of every medication there ever was because I started reading the possible side effects, and I threw out the baby with the bathwater, and I was a natural lifestyle type guy myself. And then gradually over time, I realized, wait a minute, there have been medical advances and medical tools that are phenomenal, and you just use them right and use them at the right time. And they're phenomenal, and they save people's lives, and they extend people's lives, and they keep families together, and they're just amazing what's available. You just want to do it right. So that's what I'd suggest. So my heart has warmed up. At first I was a rebel against my very training and these beautiful physicians that trained me that I loved. But I rebelled because I was afraid, and then I Now I'll accept whatever the right tool is at the right time, and that includes chemotherapy and radiation and surgery. There's the right tool to use at the right time, and use those for the immediate short run, and then recover your life after you take advantage of these phenomenal tools. So I share your concern, and I went through this myself, but that's not where I'm at today. I'm trying to say, with all the challenges in every individual's life that I meet up with, including my own, I do definitely meet up with my own life. I say, what's the best we can do? I weigh the risks and the benefits. I know a lot about things, and I've gotten beyond the fears I used to have into, let's get down to business here. What is the truth here? And what I want to, if I can shortcut it again, and this has happened to so many women, Susan, they enter menopause exactly like you did, or exactly like I started off as a doctor, afraid of everything. And then gradually over time, the same thing that happened to you, you start realizing that not being able to sleep at night, picture that. Don't sleep well for 3 nights in a row.
Yeah, it's fine for 1 night or 2.
Yeah, you can sort of endure it. But if it's a permanent pattern, or your memory's faltering because you don't have enough estrogen, or the ton of things can happen. And so many women change over time when they start realizing, wait a minute, I don't care what it is, I've got to deal with this. I like living, and this is too disabling. And I think what's so wonderful about menopause, and which is different with many other illnesses, is this is not really an illness, but can it give you the raucous symptoms? The life-stopping symptoms are slowing you down or wrecking your day-to-day life. The difference between this and an illness is this one can be remedied with molecules that are in your body already. And so that's why so many women have really righteous and dramatic and beneficial response, and they turn to love these hormones. Like I said earlier in a question today, somewhere along in our several different programs, there's no physician on earth that would, if they identified low thyroid hormone, that they wouldn't immediately put the patient on thyroid hormone. And there's probably never been a patient in the history of the world with low thyroid hormone, and this is an epidemic. There's so many people with low thyroid hormone, it's common almost as people who breathe, and there's a lot of those folks out there. It's not a little facetious. That once they've been given thyroid hormone and they start feeling better and their energy returns and their clear thinking returns, they wouldn't dream of wanting to come off of thyroid hormone. Will you tell me the difference between estrogens and progesterone and testosterone and DHEA and thyroid hormone and insulin and cortisol? You don't want to get low on any of these things. Well, you could say, well, it's natural to get ovarian hormone decline. I'm going to really challenge that, because there's 2 different stages of that decline. Yeah, you stop having periods, but then there's the long-term decline where the real stuff starts happening. So you get a little sleep disturbance, and that should tell you, gee, something's going wrong here. I wonder what it is, and I wonder what I need to do. And your body's giving you a message that this thing is worth dealing with. And I'll tell you what's worth dealing with, and this, we've put a lot of attention in this, is what happened after years and years and years of this decline to the bones, to the arteries, to the muscles, to the brain, to the vagina, to the bladder. You get, as I've said earlier today, you get the adult diapers, you get the canes, walkers, wheelchairs, and you get into assisted living. And I can tell you from the people who endure that and appreciate it, because there's a lot of caring and loving people in assisted living and nursing homes. My heart goes out to these people. But if they were given the choice, they would have liked to have prevented leaving their families and their homes. They would have liked to have stayed strong and be able to walk and hold their urine and their bowels and be able to think clearly. And hormones is a very profound part of it. It's not the whole story. No way. So I'm here to encourage you to take your life and what's going on for you and figure it out. Keep going. Start with our book, Happy, Healthy Hormones, because hormones are a part of what's going on for you. And when a woman comes into my office, because like you suggested, Susan, I've seen so many women in your situation. And they all come in with a concern because they heard the popular press. And they want to know from me What do I think about that? And so even if they don't bring up that concern, and this is part of what we teach all of our doctors and nurse practitioners, is we proactively bring it up in the first visit, because we know lingering in the back of their mind and heart is, I may take these hormones, but I'm afraid I'm going to get breast cancer.
Right.
So part of the menopause method, and it's on the checklist, is deal with the risks. And it doesn't take much. The woman, I find, just needs to know that I know what the truth is there. And the truth is, these hormones don't cause cancer. And it's a story around it, and I've talked about it earlier. It's definitely covered in the book. But when I explain what I explain to a woman and she's still reluctant, here's what I say I've said it hundreds of times. Listen, let's respect your reluctance. Let's not give you hormones. But here's what I do suggest. This is what I'm going to prescribe for you. You go out and learn about this stuff, because there is a lot known, and it's not hard to learn about. In fact, I would hand them my book. I say, start here. And if that doesn't do it for you, keep going. Until you know in your heart, in your guts, what's right for you, because that's what it comes down to. They have to know, each individual woman needs to know, and men too. I mean, I'm talking about women. We specialized in treating women in menopause, but men, this is the same thing going on in men, don't they? Why do you think Viagra, when it came on the market, just exploded into one of the most popular drugs on earth? Because men were having erectile dysfunction from low testosterone primarily.
Yeah.
Not the only reason, but it's one of the biggest ones. So you learn for yourself, and I promise you that if you do what we need to do when we don't know something, is we dive in there and learn what's being said out there, what seems true to me, what do I respect, who do I respect. There will come a moment in your study, in your encountering of talking to people and talking to your women friends, of what's right for you. And so what's been very common is a woman will come to that first visit, I'll sense that reluctance, I'll say, let's respect that. And just here's some resources. You go discover what the truth is for you. And it turns out that a lot of these women come back, and they come back in a total different frame of mind. For one thing, they've been absolutely beleaguered by their deficiency symptoms,
Yeah, like
which
some
many
our
of them
stories today.
never adjust to, especially the thinner and healthier ones. And the other thing is that some women don't come back. And this is what we instruct our doctor. You never want to override an individual woman's intuition. She might be the one who, for the last 15 years, she's been developing a well-differentiated breast cancer that's growing slowly, that does have estrogen-positive receptor sites, and you feed her estrogen, and what's going to happen, it's going to grow a little faster and be detectable, but no one wants to promote those. The hormone never caused the cancer. I'm going to make this statement. No hormone given properly in physiologic doses and proper doses ever caused a cancer. Oh, that's pretty bold. Well, do the research, and you might conclude the same thing. But you can make mistakes with hormones. You can overdose. You can make someone more vulnerable to cancer if you overdose. But who needs to overdose? It's when you know how to test for it. You know how to test a woman you're treating with hormones. You test her in real time, and you see what hormones are in her body. You'll detect overdose, and so you say, "Let's ratchet it down." This is not rocket surgery to figure this out. Ultimately, once you get good at it. But yeah, so I never want to override an individual woman's will and convince her. But what I do like to say is dive into it. You're going to gain a point of a certain amount of knowledge and intuition that you're going to go, you know what, I'm never going to take hormones. I'm going to do what feels right to me. I don't care if every woman on my block is taking hormones. Not me. It's not for me. When I dived into this and I keep feeling it and understanding it, not for me. Or you might go, wow, I was afraid of hormones. And then I dived into this subject.
Yeah.
And I'm not afraid of them now. I feel like, give them to me, you know. You'll find your way there, Susan. We see, and you're in Sarasota, Florida. And we have physicians in this area that can help you with this by telemedicine.
So all of this that's come out today has sort of had a coincidental theme or whatever, and that's natural. And it's bringing up one last thing that I want to talk about maybe before we wrap this day, and that's that I see in America a dichotomy between holistic, natural-oriented healers and Western healers. And when I try and explain who you are and what you do, I kind of say something new, and it's called and, right? On either end of that spectrum, I got to kind of personally say, yeah, but what, really? Right? If you're radically Western-leaning medical doctor and you dismiss everything that's over in the take care of yourself health side of things, I go, you're missing something. And conversely, it's true.
That's right.
There is an and relationship to this information. And they both have validity and value and a place. And in my opinion, especially after working with you for all these years and watching what you do as a medical doctor, I go, just like you already said, reach into that giant grab bag. It's all there. And they're all tools. And
when you're talking about this, the cameras may not see this, but tears well up inside of me because I was a young rebel trying to throw out the old stuff, and that I got cured of that really quickly.
Yeah.
And you know me well enough to know that there is a lot of approaches and tools to assist people with life, with their mind, with their emotions, and with their body. And why the tears came to me is I have met so many physicians and nurses and janitors in hospital and social workers and assisted living facilitators and, at every level of the healthcare industry. And I know so many caring, devoted people who have given their life's work to doing this. And so that's, when I hear people badmouth one side or the other, it really disturbs me internally, because I know the faces, I know the people, and I know it's like an army out there of good people, not perfect people. And yes, there are some bad eggs. And modern medicine is very tough to practice because of economic concerns and insurance, and it's not funded well. And we could go into that whole discussion. And so there's some people who have burnt out there, and they're not so great. But there's an army of people in your town that are doing great things for people. And then what you were trying to point out is I embrace every single tool that has ever come forward, because most of them have helped somebody at some time and at the right moment. And of course, we have a dear family member who her life was saved by chemotherapy. That didn't end the story of her recovery, but she thanked God for her oncologist, who she loved, and she was very holistically oriented.
This person also went to huge lengths to take care of herself, to change everything about her diet.
The whole spectrum.
Everything. She was embracing everything holistic.
Exactly.
And
that's what holistic medicine is to me. It's medicine. It's good medicine. I don't care about holistic. We just want good medicine.
Yeah.
And you want to choose the right thing and the right person at the right time. And if you're in an emergency situation, boy, you want to get down on your knees and thank all that is. I always struggle over what's the right word to use for these devoted people who have given decades and decades of their life to get excellent at what they do. And go to them. And my God, I've received the blessings of these people personally in my own health journey. And then, but you want to cover the whole thing, from the highest surgical or oncological specialist to a health coach that's going to teach you from the ground up about nutrition. You got to get it all right. And we're very blessed. And the tears are because I'm very uncomfortable with people who polarize in the medical profession, and they don't have the whole view.
Yeah.
So there's no such thing as traditional medicine or holistic medicine or conventional medicine. To me, there's nothing like that, and I'm not the first to say this. There is something called good medicine. And man, you want to draw for the whole panoply of everybody that can help you.
Yeah.
So thanks for bringing that up. That's a near and dear topic to my heart.
Yeah, to mine
And I
as well.
wince when someone comes in and they tell me a tale of the roughness that they faced in the medical experience. Because, for one thing, you feel for the patient who had to go through that. But then the whole profession gets bad-mouthed and people get afraid of the basics. And this might be part of what you're pointing out about with Susan. There's reason to be feared because some junk stuff happens out there. But you get afraid of then you get afraid of everything. And rightfully so, because you could have a personal experience where someone got really injured just by going through the general health approach to general medical stuff.
And no action is an action, right? Fear
no action
can
is an action.
freeze us into not doing something, and that has consequences too.
Major. But there is also, I had to do a lot of shopping in my life. There were a lot of things that I needed help with. I needed teachers, I needed guidance. I needed sessions. I needed to pay out money to do the kind of growth that I wanted to do and the kind of healing that I wanted to do. And you go out shopping. And you call up an office and you're going to talk to someone, and if they feel good, you go forward, and if they don't, you don't.
Yeah.
And you go shopping, you talk to your friends, and you find your way to the right people, because there's a lot of them. There's an army at every level. I remember when my father was ill in the hospital, and one of the people that touched him the most, and it touched me every day because I was spending a lot of time in there with him, was this janitor who came in every day to clean his bathrooms. And that man, he had such an effect on my father and I. That's why I say every level. There is no level that isn't important out there, and there's an army of folks out there. And they're not that well paid, a lot of them, and they're working way too hard, and so I wish the American economy would rally to the care of the healthcare workers. They don't burn out. Excuse me.
And rally to, I was going to add, excuse me, and rally to the care of the people who need the care.
Yeah. Oh boy, we're getting into the nitty gritty. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yet another great talk, at least for me.
Yeah.
I love this stuff. I feel the value. I'm a man. And I'm sitting here feeling the value of this stuff. I guess I'm married to a woman.
Yes, you are.
A great one.
My beloved daughter.
Yeah. Couple nice notes. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Bev.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hi, Kim.
And,
Hi, Bev. Hi, Kim.
So here we have, as Click and Clack would say, squandered another hour.
Hi, Click and Clack.
And we'll see you here again, if you like, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard on Thursdays.